Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ace Advice. I hope you're all doing well. I am so excited for the discussion I'm about to have. Today, we have Adam Altschuler. He is an amazing coach. He is currently coaching Bethanie Mattek-Sands, who is a 7-time Grand Slam champion and gold medalist. She's been number 1 in the world in doubles and top 30 in singles. And Adam has also coached for various amounts of time Victoria Azarenka, Lucie Safarova, Christina Mchale, and Melanie Oudin. So he has such an amazing list of players that he's coached and is still coaching, and I am so excited for the discussion that we're about to have. Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
I guess we can get started. I have some questions.
Let's do it.
So thanks so much for doing this again. I really appreciate it.
No, of course.
So my first question is what your background is in tennis, when you started to play. Was it a family thing?
I started when I was 9, actually. I was playing basically every other sport first. My family, nobody really introduced me to tennis. And then at a camp, I was at like a camp and I was playing more baseball. Baseball was probably my best sport, to be honest. Even tennis is my passion and my love, but baseball is probably my most talented sport. And then just some coach was like, you should go, like, you're good at sports, you should go play tennis. I was like, all right, whatever, that's fine. And like once I saw that you could only hit, like you were the only person hitting balls, you'd have to share with anyone. That's it. I was done.
Yeah.
So about 9 years old, I basically decided that tennis was my life.
Wow, that's crazy. So did you just then like start playing like junior tournaments like right away?
Yeah, I mean, I remember being like 9, 10, like I was small at that age. So I remember like, you don't know what to do at that age. Like you don't know who to play. You don't know what's going on. You just play. And, I just remember everyone being like 6 feet taller than me, it felt like at the time. And, I'd get rocked by plenty of people, I'm sure. But, you just keep playing. And then ultimately I moved for tennis to live with a coach. And I mean, I did everything like what I thought was right to try and be a player. And ultimately it was meant for me to be a coach, which I started also very early. But I would have started coaching, like if some coach had told me I wasn't going to make it in the pros, like I would have started coaching when I was like 14.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
no coach told me that. So I decided myself when I was 19, but I would have done it. Like I'm definitely meant for coaching, but the playing stuff was, I mean, it was great. I did as much as humanly possible to travel the world from a young age, to do everything, to live with a coach, to live with players from other countries. Everything from young is really, really cool. And I mean, I wouldn't trade anything, that's for sure.
So when you were playing pretty much to go pro then, right? You were just traveling?
I knew I was going to coach or play, to be honest, like always. Like even school was just not like, I mean, people thought I was crazy, but I was always like, it's what I'm going to do. Like at that obviously very young age, I was like, I'm going to play. As I became 15, 16, I started thinking like, okay, I'm going to coach or play.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it takes a lot of money to do it. It takes everything to get there. I had help. Obviously, my parents helped as much as humanly possible. But, when it came down to it, really about that time, at least in my memory, so maybe 16, I started thinking like, okay, like if I don't become top 100, like soon, I want to coach like earlier than later. I want to be ahead in something.
Yeah. So you started coaching at 19, is that what you said?
Yeah. When I was 19, I started coaching.
Wow. And what kind of players did you coach?
It varied because a coach that I was working with at the time kind of set me up with players, and I really thought a lot of those players were just too good for my level of coaching. So it was, so I kind of backed off that. I could hit amazing at that time, but I thought that my eye for coaching like needed help. So I took away from working with like really good players at first. I stayed as a hitting partner for a lot of really good players. So even pro players who, one of my coaches was working with, I hit with them and I would be a hitting partner, and I kept that, but I went and worked with like even people who just started playing to whatever level, like any level that I could basically just get an eye for the game. And I videotaped every practice and I went over the videotapes all night. At that point it was like VHS. So It was like really, really hard to do. So it took me like 14 hours a day, I feel like, to even look at each shot. But as I got an eye for it that I felt like on video, then I started working with better and better players. I would like go by what I thought. And then ultimately, I mean, 5 or 6 years in, I was helping players win junior Grand Slams and ultimately Grand Slams. So it didn't, it just was like a gradual like, this is what I'm going to do. And then, it goes by fairly fast, to be honest.
Wow.
But at the time was I probably looked insane to a lot of people. Like, what was this guy? This is guy doing like
Yeah.
24 hours a day. I did everything I could like 24 hours a day. Like, I feel like I literally worked 24 hours a day back then.
Wow. No, that's crazy. I had no idea. That's such a quick, like transition to coaching.
I literally like flew home from India, and India was my last tournament that I ever played. So I was 19 or 20, but I think, my dad, like even my parents said I was 19, so I'm just going to go with that. But I flew home, and it was basically like the next day I was coaching. Like I actually flew home to Connecticut, saw my parents for like a day or two, literally within days was like coaching tennis.
Wow.
And that was that.
Wow. And the rest is history.
That's it.
Wow. So were you more of like a doubles player or singles player? What was kind of your strength?
I played mostly all singles. I should have played more doubles. There were definitely, like, as I started coaching, I saw like how many mistakes I made. You're young and you don't know, but even like tournaments I played, or why I played certain things, why I should have played more doubles. There were so many things that I was like, I would never do this, like, whatever. So, there's just things as you coach, you can't mess up. You got to like help other people live their life. So, you study as much as possible. You see what people really did to make it in the world. And, I just did it wrong in a lot of scheduling stuff. So, it's just whatever. I was meant to coach. So it's not like I'm taking it like, oh, I regret that. It's just more like I just, there were things that I should have done differently, at least if I wanted to be a player, like a real player,
Yeah. Was there a particular professional player when you were growing up that you kind of emulated your style of play?
I actually love Sampras. Like as I was growing up, it was in my era. But like, one of the coaches I was working with thought I was played a lot like Malavai Washington. So I don't even know if you
I
know
don't think
him.
I've ever heard.
He did make the finals in Wimbledon one year, but he was just a top 30 player, I think, basically his whole career. Very athletic, consistent. So they kind of showed me a lot of video of him as I was coming up. Like, we think, you play like him. So that was a lot. But
Yeah.
I think my favorite, if I remember correctly, and the clothes I wore, at least in some pictures, I'm not a big picture person. Sampras was my favorite player at that time.
Wow.
But I just love talented people. Now as I've grown up and just seen, I just love talent. Like, I love people who have it, no matter if it's tennis or something else. I just love seeing people that have ability. And as a coach, I tend to go to, like, no matter what level the player is, I tend to see what that talent is and then try and like make it the best you can, I think that's our job. I think it's to get the best out of every person.
Yeah.
So, that's really kind of the way I coach anyway, is to see talent and then go to like, okay, this is how you're supposed to play. Let's do this.
Yeah. So when you say you see talent, what are the kind of the signs that someone has talent?
I personally, even if you never played before, like, I think there are things you were born with no matter what.
Yeah.
So like extreme talent, that could be like on tour, professional. I think those people take things that you see and put them to another level better than anyone else.
Yeah.
So like, you might not even like, it's better than what you see in your head. So like, say you're working on something and all of a sudden they do something that is so above what you were thinking that drill would be. You're like, yeah, let's just do that instead. Like, what you're doing is better. Like, let's keep that. Like, you don't back them up. They show you their genius and they go. I think there's always, no matter who it is, stuff that people do that they can do that maybe they didn't know before, or that they have that's really good, that you got to make sure it's good. So no matter what level, I think there's always things that you should play a certain way, or something should be a huge weapon or whatever, But like, the people who can be just these insane, like, it's like a miracle to get to some of these levels that people have gotten to. It's just like, they take it above what anything you think in life. And it's crazy and it's weird, but it's true, and I've seen it.
No, that's crazy, because I definitely always was like, oh, I have the talent for like drop shots. Like, I always like really enjoyed slicing, and I remember the first day I was taught to slice, it was like the easiest shot I've ever hit in my life. Yeah. And I was just like drop shotting left and right, and my coaches were like, whoa, like, where did this come from? And like, now I like, sometimes if I'm like really tight in a match, I just slice everything. Like, it's so easy for me. Yeah.
But that's what it is though. Like, you just have something you were given. It's, it's crazy to say that, but that really is what it is. Like, you make it better and you try and make it the best ever, hopefully, but really you were like given this thing, and some
Yeah.
people are given 1, 2, 5. You just don't know until you do it, and you do it a lot.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. I mean, tennis is so many reps. It takes like this thing that just like you got to keep doing it, that you don't know how good it can be until you just go do it.
And if you're coaching like a junior player, let's say, I know that like when I was growing up, there were certain girls that were definitely training to go pro. Like that was their goal. And they were doing really well, but now they either like got injured, unfortunately, or they just didn't do well in the pro tour. Can you tell like if someone's going to be good in the pro tour? Like, is it like the talent like you were talking about, or is it like the work ethic? Like, how can you tell a junior is going to do well like in pros?
I think there's certain people you could be like, no matter what, right? Unless someone ruins that person, it's like they're going. Like it's insane, like something they have that is just beyond anything else. They compete well, you know, all the things and and everything. And then there's certain people that you're like, they have the talent, but everything has to go right.
Right.
So can we, you have to have, the whole team around them. Can we get lucky in some matches and win like 7-6 in a third and 10 times in a row? Does someone just work harder than anyone else that's ever lived? Sure, that is one thing you could do. There's just a lot. I think there's a lot of things that go into if they want to go pro. Can you travel? Also, is like your family allow you to travel basically every week of every year from a young age? And if not, it's going to be hard, like to do it. So really, it takes like a whole team of people and the family and the player. But there are some people that yes, you just like, my God, like if someone just doesn't mess you up, you're going. I think there's so many different ways to make it, like on personality or, style of play or things like that. There are some players for sure that I just sit there and I'm like, I just hope no one messes you up. Like if I'm not coaching them, and hopefully I'm not the person that messes them up too.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, yeah, there are people that you're just like, for sure. I mean, the amount of people that it was like that made it to the tour, I could say there's probably a lower percentage. There are people that make it more. They're like, I didn't know. I just kept going.
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden I was beating everybody. And then I realized I could get here. But I always thought, the way to really like the massively talented people, if you just let them like go, you let them be who they are and you let the personality flourish, like they'll do it. I think a lot of times, and I'll say this as a coach, there's overcoaching to this too. And if you overcoach someone, you might take them out of who they are and what they could do, and maybe they should have made it and then didn't because of overcoaching them, and maybe you hurt them. And so the injury stuff is a big deal. You gotta try and keep people healthy.
Yeah.
The only way to be good at tennis is to be on the court.
I know that a lot of like discussions been happening about whether you should go to like a D1 school that would train you to go pro first as like a way to transition to pros, or just going straight. Do you have kind of an opinion on that?
I used to have the opinion that college really took you away from pros. I think now as tennis has become so physical and older, and so many college players have really shown that you can make it after, and a lot of colleges I think have done a good job of letting players play tournaments during their college careers. Honestly, now I've always been a custom person. I like it to be what's right for you. And I really think it's been very well proven over the last few years that you can do either or. Look, you're in Connecticut. This is a very school-oriented place.
Yeah.
And I've never seen school be this important to people. So, it's, even if I'm, there's a lot of talent here. And if people are going to go pro through Connecticut, and they're from here, they're going to go to school. So, I had like, no matter what, as I study it now, and even though I already changed my mind before I moved here, I would have had to have changed it being here, because like, they're really like, there's no way, if I coach anyone from here that they're going straight pro. There's just, I know I'm from here, but I'm a different human being no matter what. But like, there's just no way. Like, they're going to go to school. They're probably going to go to an unbelievable school. And then if they have the ability, and hopefully the coach is the right one, and hopefully we can, help them through whatever is needed to, and then that, they'll try. I think but I think you can do it now, and it's been proven that people can, which I never would have thought I would say like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, so transitioning a little bit. So you've obviously coached some pro players. So I was wondering what it was like to be a coach on the pro tour.
It's awesome. When you win, it's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I love all parts. There's, I think the best part, to be honest, is how much time you spend together and trying to be the best on earth. There's, you have so much fun as well, and there are some horrific times. there are absolutely amazing times. And, I've always said tennis usually is something in between. Like if you find, you're not usually as good as you think you're playing, you're not usually as bad as you think you're playing, and usually it's in between. And that's usually like where you are in matches and stuff. But the rest of it, where there's just so much relationship and you fight through things that you never thought you'd go through with a person, and whatever. I mean, that part's amazing. I mean, the whole thing is, incredible. Obviously, it's not as like glamorous as people think. You're traveling to different parts of the world basically on a weekly. It's hard and it's tiring for most people, but there's nothing like it. So it's awesome. I mean, I've always told people, I think if you got to make sure you have the right player, the right team, because if you don't enjoy it, it's really hard. Like you can't do it. So it's important that you make sure you like pick the right player. They pick you for the right reasons, and hopefully you have a long career together. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade any experiences I've had on tour. Even though I did come off the tour, I love what I'm doing. I love everything about developing players. I love being here, but the tour, I mean, it's, there are experiences that I don't think many people can get anywhere else. It's tiring. I mean, there's a lot to it, and a lot of people have families. And so that part, how to figure that out and do that. But, I was lucky. I had someone travel with me. The players are there. I mean, it's a very lucky thing that I could just go and focus on tennis.
Yeah.
And be, and make that happen. And, we were lucky to win also at the highest level, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And that always kind of makes it all worth it also.
I mean, look, winning's always more fun. I'm not going to ever deny that one.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I would say after a loss, the car ride back to the hotel was as painful as you get on this earth.
Yeah.
So I don't want to ever show anyone like that part, because then they'd be like, no one wants to be there.
Yeah. So in terms of like compatibility between coach and player, do you think that like personality matters? Like, do you need like an outgoing coach and like a more introverted player, or like do those things really matter at all, like the personalities of the two?
I think you could have two different personalities. I mean, look, I think actually at any level, I think if you're even playing 2 days a week and you have a coach, you should have like a great rapport together. I believe in that. But I think especially if you're on tour and you're around each other as much as you are, there has to be like some type of relationship there there's so much talking, or, just knowing who your player is, when to talk to them, when not to, what to do, what they need, that you just have to have something. So, I mean, like two different personalities can definitely get along, I think, in the world and in life. How can you like deal with each other and stuff is very key. But I've always been like a relationship. Like I think the relationships with players and coaches is important. Like I think it's key to be able to like trust each other and know what each other, I mean, like it all goes both ways. But as a coach, you are there specifically for the player. I've always been the person that like whatever the players like, you kind of chameleon to what they need.
Right.
And so to get the best out of them. And so when you're coaching like 100 players like I am now, okay, now you got to do it with all 100,
Yeah.
and when you have one player on tour, you got to make sure that you're doing like their talent did get you there. How do you get them to be like the best player they could possibly be, and what do they need as a human being, and what, other times where you just have to be quiet, even though it's not, not something that you specifically want to do, but that might be the time, like, okay, like we're just gonna chill here, like let's do this. So you have to make sure that your choices are for them, And
Yeah.
then I think everybody can get along. Everybody can do it. And as a player, it is it's a crazy thing. I mean, it's a sport that's one-on-one. It's a sport that is about you. So you do need some of that selfish feeling that like, okay, I'm going to do what's right for me here. And the coach needs to have that.
Are there any other kind of do's and don'ts of being a coach? Like things you should do more of, things you should do less of?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I think I've seen too many ways that people have made it to say like one way's right or one way's wrong, and I don't know how this is going to sound on the video or whatever, but I trust my coaching a lot. And I know to win matches, it takes a lot of confidence. And so my thing is more to build people's confidence. And so I don't do a lot of I don't even do a lot of negative anything, to be honest. I think I'm much more a positive, like what you're doing well, and we'll fix what you're not doing well. But does every player need to know what they're not doing well? In my opinion, no, if I do.
Yeah.
So, I think it's, for me anyway, it's more about like, how are we going to, always in my head, how are we going to get like to play the best tennis today, tomorrow, whatever, in a year, this is what we want, this is how good we think you can be, whatever, and how we're going to get there. And I'm much more of the like, okay, positive, and it's going well, it's, here's what you're doing, whatever, however you say that.
Yeah.
But I'm in no way saying that there's a wrong way at all, because there are so many ways people make it.
Yeah.
And there are many people that do like say they need like a negative or someone yelling at them or, whatever. Do I think anyone actually needs that? I don't. If they think so, then that's on them. I've seen too many coaches, I think, like if I coach two people exactly the same, I mean, no matter what, one of them is going to be better. So for me, like it's key to also enjoy the fact that we're like doing tennis for a living and be like my personality and coach people like that. I'm not saying I'm meant for everyone and whatever, but it's just, there's always going to be someone that's better, even if you give everything 100%, which I feel like I do every day and whatever. Just one person's going to be better than the other, and we don't know why. And why would like there's no actual reason for this if we're doing everything we can for each player. But so I'm like, for me, there's multiple reasons. I see people going crazy, coaches, and losing their minds, and then they're pissed 24 hours a day. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, your player literally, like, what is it? They're gonna be great if you just do the right stuff either way. So for me, I would rather be in a certain way, but I also trust myself like a lot. And so I feel like I can get a lot done as a coach. And if the player has confidence, I feel like they will win more. And that's worked very well for me. So I've stuck with that method. When I started coaching, I didn't know what my method was, As more people won matches, it was always the people that I was the most positive with. And I was like, this is telling me something.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree with you. I definitely think like the positive reinforcement helped me a lot. Like I definitely think that playing not from like fear, but like wanting myself to do well, like from within, like that was really, I loved being like praised, all that stuff. So like definitely the positive reinforcement. I agree. I think that helped me the most also, like as a player. Do you think technique or strategy is more important?
I think technique for like getting your technique is more important first. Obviously there's a lot of players who are really good tactically right away for, whatever reason. Like we said, there's always something people are good at. But I think if you, at least technique for who you are, like whatever that means. Like even, there's some players who, again, could be overcoached, maybe change the technique that was meant for them and they do these magical things, but like getting it right for them and having these reps and these things that you get certain weapons, certain consistency, the footwork, even technique, whatever, just getting really good at all those things. And then, I just think strategy can be something either you're good at playing behind someone or this, you can do all that, I think.
Yeah.
But if you get to a certain age where it's like, oh man, you're playing, you're not anywhere near what you are, I think then it's harder to get that. Not saying everyone should have the same technique, but within the method of tennis and then within however the person should play, I think it's more important how they should play down first.
Yeah.
And then all the strategies and all the things and everything. I mean, you obviously do it all at the same time, but I think it's more important at a younger age to get that.
Yeah, I agree. I think technique's kind of like step one, and then strategy, you kind of start developing as you go, but then it's more of a step two, like after you kind of nail down the technique.
Yeah, and you're playing so many matches as you get older.
Yeah.
So as you're like seeing like, oh shit, I lose like this type of player beats me all the time. How do I get them? Here's how you do it. It's not, I don't know if you'd understand it at like 11 years old.
Yeah.
You'd be like, hey, this type of player plays like this, that, and they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I played like 5 matches.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was just like, I can hit cross court, but that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it's good if they could play more matches, but you're not really playing, like, it's hard to play tournaments that mean anything at, 9, 10, 11. You're kind of going into a little bit later years.
Yeah.
So 13 on, you can usually if you're really good at 13, obviously too, but 13 on, they even allow you to play internationally and stuff like that. So if you're really good, you start going into that. I like the way a lot of the countries do it, where like from 10 to 13 is like their development stages, and at 13 it's like go play. Go play tournaments. We'll send a coach with you. You'll keep improving, but like you got to go play like nonstop and just go play matches.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot. I believe in a lot of that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like practice makes perfect. You need the match play, and you need practicing in competitive settings and not just rallying back and forth. Sometimes that's not
Definitely
points too,
Yeah. And it's hard for a coach to know without, like during Corona was the hardest time for me as a coach, because I've always seen tournaments and been like, oh, well, this stuff, I need to change this, change that, do this. Like if you're just practicing for 4 months, okay, everything looks good, but what do we actually know? So it was actually, for me, even as a coach, probably one of the hardest times for like how my brain works and what I am as a coach. Like I adjust really well, and I was like, I know what we're trying to build, but what adjustments am I actually making? Like all we're doing is like back to like when you're I have like 16-year-olds who like top of the nation, whatever, and I'm like, okay, we have all these technique things, but how do we know they're like what we're doing is working, And so like in my head, I wouldn't actually say that out loud, but in my head, I'm going home and looking at it and just being like how many more things should we change until we get a match in?
So true. Like I remember in academies, I definitely always played better in matches just because I love to like hit really weird shots, like those random like slices. I don't know, but I definitely like would go against people in practice and like it made like everything like so well, like big targets, like perfect clean shots. And then in tournaments, I would watch them play and they missed so much and they like were mentally not there. And it's like this like match toughness, like mental toughness. You can only get those when you play matches. You can't get that when you're just rallying back and forth.
Completely agreed. And practice matches do nothing. Like I just don't do the same thing. Like I know how much people want to do practice matches, and I think for the coach is more important than even the player. But the emotions of it and whatever, it's just not the same. It's not even close. Like you just can't get it unless you go play a tournament.
All right, so I have one last question. So I was thinking of professional players who don't have coaches, and I know that Kyrgios, I don't think has a coach, or he's talked about in the past, like he doesn't need a coach, kind of. So I was wondering what you thought about, is it essential for pros to have a coach? I guess that's my question.
To be honest, like at that level, I honestly don't think so. I've always told the players I work with, I said, that you only need me if like something's going wrong. When you're on fire, they're amazing. Like they need no one. You could literally just sit there and be like, and just go for the ride. And I think that's part of coaching is knowing like when to say something, when not to. I think that the people on tour that I've told this to are always like, yeah, but we want you there. It's like a relationship you have. They feel comfortable. They feel good about it. They know if there is something needed, you will do it.
Right.
I think they understand when they get to a certain level, when they're on fire, they're on fire. But when something goes bad, like it is important to like have a little adjustment here, a little adjustment there. It makes a big, big difference at that level. A little game plan that maybe just shifts it a little bit. Enough that you get like a couple extra things that win a match in the third or fourth round of a slam that, maybe they've never been to quarterfinals of a slam before or some of that. It's just a little bit, or, they're really nervous before something and you can kind of chill it out a little bit. Just the little things. I mean, some of the time it's just little at that level. And then some of the times it's huge, and sometimes they need absolutely nothing. And so I honestly do agree that when they get to a certain level, yes, there's less at times for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and be like, nobody can make it without a coach. That's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous to say anything, to be honest, because there's so many people that do it differently. But to like not be with anyone and travel the world and do that, I can tell you for a fact, most players wouldn't want that. Like it's hard out there. And like to be alone, I mean, you better have someone. Bring like 5 friends. Bring somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to do, but have a masseuse, have something, because it's just tough. I mean, you go on your flights every week, your hotels, you play, everybody's playing, you got to find practice, you string rackets, even if you had someone just to take care of like all the other stuff where you could just focus on tasks. So I mean, I would guess nobody has no one,
right.
but at least from what I've ever seen on tour, that was years. I mean, usually they're with people, and I don't know what all the team does. Like, obviously being on the women's tour, you don't see the guys as much, but I'm not going to overstate, like, for sure there are times where it's just like, yeah, you're going to win today. Like, you're on absolute fire.
Right.
And that's it. Like, that's what you do. And you just watch it. Like, to watch that, though, is also awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Like, to know and the team to be like, dude, this is just such a good feeling. And then you have the other side where, like, at some point something's going to go bad. and you got to be there for that, You got to be there for the entirety of the process. But, yeah, I mean, everyone's completely different. I think there is overcoaching in this world for sure at every age, and how how do you, when a player even wants kind of to be overcoached or thinks they want it, how are you as a coach dealing with that? And I think some players who make it on tour probably had some negative, memories from when they were young. And so how do you kind of get them out of that? And how do you put them into like a really positive place and, where they trust people and want to be around people and, maybe want some coaching at some point? You just don't know until you like meet the player and know them and,
right.
And go from there. There's no way. Like I could sit there. I mean, I know a lot of players obviously, but I could sit there and say what they need or don't, but really until you meet them, there's no way you could say you could do a better job or a worse job or or anything until you like know who they are as people and how much they listen to what you want, or is there something weird that doesn't fix certain things, or it takes longer to do something. Like there's just no way. Like I think I think it'd be crazy to say stuff like that. I think you just take people for who they are and try and do the best humanly possible, and hopefully we win a lot of trophies.
Yeah.
That's really where you go.
Yeah.
The trophies are the most fun part. in my opinion, I have an addiction to trophies, I guess you could say. But
Me too. Oh my gosh, that was like the only thing I cared about growing up was like how many trophies I could get. Like if I was
how
in a
many did you get?
competition, oh, I had so many. I actually don't know anymore, but I had this like shelf for tennis trophies, and at some point I had to find another shelf because I ran out of space, and it was like I bragged about it to everyone. I was like, I'm out of space, like on my trophy shelf. Like I need more
I
space.
love it. Yeah, get another house. You need another house. That's
Yeah,
my goal with like every player. Like you need a second house for your trophies.
exactly. Oh my gosh, yeah. It didn't matter like what level of the tournament I was at. Like if there was a trophy at stake, I played my very best. Like it could be like an 8th place trophy, but I would like,
Yeah, whatever. 8th place. That's sick. You got a trophy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, that's all the questions I have. I mean, you are having such a successful coaching career, and I'm just so grateful I could have you on. Thank you so much.
Of course. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye. Thank
All
you.
right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.